Hi guys, I am Dalila Meziani writer, and I want to say that it's my first time here on YouTube and I finally decided to show up. So, hi, I am Dalila Meziani, I'm a writer, and I want to say please wait for my books that are coming. So today I want to share with you my story with writing. Uh, my story with writing is, so at the age of 14 years old, I remember in the summertime, I felt for the first time that my heart was bleeding in a very deep way, so much so that I couldn't take the pain. So I decided to go sleep. I lay down in my bed and I really was feeling deeply the pain because my heart was bleeding, right? And suddenly, I started saying sentences in the air. So you can say that I started writing in the air. I wrote 4 sentences, they finished with the same letter, and I decided to name them bleed. So just to make it sure or clear. Back then I wasn't good at English. I was only good at Arabic. I was very good at Arabic. So I started writing in the air in Arabic. And when I decided to name the 4 sentences that I wrote, and they seemed like they were poetry or poesy. How do we say that? Poesy? Anyway. When I decided to name it Bleed Nazif in Arabic, I knew that I can write more. So I went to my desk and I wrote a whole paragraph with my own style, and I named it Bleed Nazif in Arabic. And then I discovered that I am a writer. I discovered that I can write with my own style. So then I discovered that I have my own style. And I was happy that I discovered that I was a writer, because back then I lost myself. So you can say that I lost myself just to find myself, and I found that I was a writer, right? So I wrote my first paragraph and I named it Bleed, and I was kind of happy that I discovered that I am a writer and that I can write more, and that writing helps me. That this is the thing that I enjoy in this life. Like, this is my thing. This is me. This is my reality. I'm a writer. I discovered that at the age of 14. Okay. So after this event, a week after, I remember that my heart was still bleeding. I was so in pain and I didn't know what to do. Like, nothing was helping me, literally nothing. No matter what I do, it wasn't helping. So I stayed in the garden of our house. Yeah. So after a week of writing my first paragraph, Bleed, I stayed in the garden of our house and I started thinking. So I started discovering that I was a thinker also. I was really thinking a lot, I was thinking about pain, about why my heart was bleeding, about life, and I started thinking about these things, until I started imagining and imagined the whole story, and I was like, oh yeah, I can write it down. So that's what I did. So I was writing a story for a whole week in the garden. So I wrote a story of 13 pages in a week in the garden, and I found that it was very fun for me, like I really enjoyed it. And you know what, I really released what was inside me, because as a writer I don't share my ideas and I don't share my emotions. You can say that I don't speak too much, you can say. So that's why writing helped me so much. So you can say that I have this talent. I can imagine, and write a whole story. So I discovered that I can back then, right? And after I finished my first story that I still keep somewhere here, I was like, yeah, you're a writer, you're here to write, congratulations, you have your own style. And I started writing every day since then. like literally every day. I wasn't okay. Writing was the only way to escape, I guess, for me. So I was writing for every day. Yeah. At the age of 15, I guess, I decided to start writing a book. And I named it The Adventure of Life. Because back then, so after I discovered that I am a writer at the age of 14, and I read my first paragraph, and then I read my first little story of 13 pages, and then I was writing more and more paragraphs, more, and then at the age of 15, I decided to write a story and named it The Adventure of Life. Actually, at this age, I was literally discovering some dangerous places, and I was discovering life for the first time, you can say. For example, pain, sufferings, joy. I was discovering some places, even some dangerous ones, for the first time, so that I thought about The Adventure of Life as a title of a book, and I started writing at the age of 15. So I started writing this book, and I was kind of writing and writing, but I didn't finish it until now because I didn't know how to finish it. It was a little bit hard for me to know how to make the events, because writing a book, like, you have to, like, it's not like it has to make sense, but as a writer, I find that I have to say the truth as it is. And in this life, there are laws, right? So I have to say it as it is, and to say the truth as it is. So you can say that I don't have the right to write the events just as I imagine them. They have to make sense. They have to go with the laws of life, you can say. And even for the personalities and how I can start and how I can finish the story, because even how I can finish the story can say a lot, you can say, it can literally say a lot, or even there's a lot of lessons hidden behind that, right? So it was hard for me to finish the story of The Adventure of Life for the first time. So you can say that it's still in the middle. I didn't finish it. Why? Because while I was writing a story, I was also writing the ideas that come to me, you can say, just like that, in another copybook. For example, I have this copybook where I'm writing. I really like it. Yeah, I like Bangkok. So you can say that I write here in Arabic. I write in Arabic. The ideas that come to mind, like that. So back then, at the age of 16, I read a paragraph of mine, like I reread it again, a paragraph of mine, and it was talking about a storm. And I read it, and I was like, you can realize this as a book. Like, I read the idea, and it was talking about a storm, and I really loved it. So I have my own style, and I like my style. Sometimes in a moment of a deep pain, I write an unbelievable, incredible sentences. So this sentence that I wrote was very beautiful for me. So much so that I was like, it has to be the beginning of a book. And I decided to make it the beginning of a book, and I decided to start writing a book and name it The Storm. So this is how I wrote my first book, and this is how I finished it, because I managed in imagining the beginning and the end of the book, and even the events and the personalities and everything back then, right? So when I had an idea like that in my mind and I made a plan, I started in writing my first book, The Storm, that I finished in 2 months. You can say a month and a half, 2 months. Yeah, I finished in writing it in a month and a half and 2 months at the age of 16. And I was very happy because it was such an achievement for me, right? So there's a reason why I named it The Storm. And I'll be talking in the next videos about my other books. For example, this is the second book that I finished. It's Friend of Pain. I published it this year, so the video is going to end. I'll be sharing how I wrote it in the next video. So thank you so much for listening, and please wait for my books. They are coming. It isn't finished yet. So I decided to show up finally.